Pastor Mike here in the study. Last time we come to you, we started talking about the subject of the gospel. And we said there's three words wrapped up in the teaching on the gospel. The word justification, then sanctification, then glorification. Justification, that's the word we want to look at today. Just very clearly, somebody said this one time, I think it's a good way of describing justification. Justification is God declaring us just as if we had never sinned. It's God making a legal declaration that we are no longer bound by sin or guilty under the law of sin. Paul makes it very clear in Romans 3 that we are condemned before God. As a matter of fact, he said, if we're looking in chapter 3 and verse number 19, he said, "Now we know that whatsoever things the law saith, it saith to them that are under the law." Why? That every mouth may be stopped, and all the world will become guilty before God. Therefore, by the deeds of the law shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin. So the law is not a means by which we can justify ourselves. The law is simply a measuring tool that exposes our need of justification. So when you and I come with our good works or our efforts, they do not outweigh our guilt. And so a murderer cannot claim good deeds and cease to be a murderer. The law doesn't work that way. The law looks at our entire record and says there's a spot on your record, you're guilty, and you must pay the debt. And so what has to happen? We need a new record. And then he says this, he said, "By now the righteousness of God, but now the righteousness of God without the law is manifest, being witnessed by the law and the prophets." And so we see God's righteousness to judge. He is right to judge. And he said, however, we can have the righteousness of God, verse number 22, even the righteousness of God, which is by faith of Jesus Christ, unto all and upon all them that believe. There is no difference. And so he's making the argument that by believing, we can receive the righteousness of God on our account. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, but being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in the Christ Jesus. So Christ gives his grace on our behalf, that God then could declare us just before the law. So when God looks at our account, he no longer sees our guilt. He sees the innocence of Christ on our account. And he even uses this long word. He said, whom God has set forth to be a propitiation or a substitute through faith in his blood, to declare his righteousness, not my righteousness, but his righteousness for the remissions of sin that pass through the forbearance of God. And so God gives us justification through the work of Jesus Christ. Because Christ satisfied the law before God, we by faith can accept his work, and God declares us just. And so that's what it means to be justified before God. Hope that'll be an encouragement to you. We'll see you next time in the study.